I write online every day, and I manage my online writing projects with Notion. Here's how it works. When I'm writing content for my website, newsletter, or for social media, I pick a single theme or topic to focus on, and I do this using a Kanban board, which is pretty easy to set up inside of Notion using Board View. First up, I'll map out 5 or 10 themes or topics that I want to write about for the next few months. And then when I want to work on a single theme or topic, I'll drag it over to the In Progress section. And then when I finished writing articles and social media posts about this particular theme, I'll drag it over to Complete. I like this because it enables me to engage in some high-level planning, and also because I can see all of my work in one place and limit what I'm working on at any one time. And of course, because this is Notion, I can click on these cards and I can add checklist items. So you can see here in this card, strength training and yoga. I have checklists for Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, for Reels, Shorts, Twitter or X, and also for YouTube videos. And if I'm collaborating with other team members, of course, I can add comments here as well, or I can assign it to them. So basically, I'll spend 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the week reviewing the themes or topics that I'm going to focus on at any one time, and also what I'd like to write about next. There are loads of great opportunities for writers and creators who want to earn a living working online. Sometimes I get overwhelmed by all of the different opportunities that are out there. Enter this priority framework, which I've created inside of Notion. And I use this to plan ideas and projects for my business and to figure out what I should spend time on, or what I should outsource, or what I should just basically ignore altogether. Here's how it works. First up, in the thesis section, I'll write down a 1-sentence summary describing what I want to do and why it's a good idea. As an example, Medium is a good social media network for writers like me. That's because Medium is full of people who love learning about the craft of writing, and you can earn a small bit of money from the Medium Partner Program. Here's another example. Pinterest drives good clicks and has good RPMs. That's because if you're running a content website like I do, you can get lots of juicy traffic from Pinterest and also get paid from ad revenue. Threads is the new sexy social media network from Mark Zuckerberg. Because it's new, it might be easier to grow an account there than spending time on Twitter. On the other hand, I could spend time on Twitter or X writing threads and trying to grow my account there instead. I'll spend 30 or 60 minutes writing down different ideas for projects that I want to work on for the next month or even the next 3 months. Then in the channel section, I'll identify them by the particular channel in question. So it could be Pinterest, Medium, YouTube, X, Threads, Facebook, and so on. Once I've come up with something that I want to do and figured out the reason why I want to do it, I'm going to score it across a number of different criteria between 1 and 5. So these are revenue impact. In other words, am I going to make money? Brand impact. In other words, will it help me grow my personal or business brand? Effort. Just how much work is it really? Feasibility. Can I actually do it? Time to impact. How long will it take? And then this formula will give me a score that will help me calculate if I should spend time on this project or not. So here's an example. Medium. Revenue impact between 1 and 5. 3. That's because I'm already in the Medium Partner Program and I've gotten paid from them before. And if I scaled up how much content I produce on Medium, I could earn more money. Brand impact for Medium is also quite good. Medium articles are ranking well in search results these days, and it contains lots of people interested in learning about the craft of writing. So it could help me grow my personal brand and also to become a Writer Today brand. Effort? Well, if you're going to write on Medium, you need to write stuff every day. It needs to be good and lengthy. So I need to spend a couple of hours writing Medium articles each week. So it's probably quite a good bit of work. Feasibility? Can I do it? Well, I've written on Medium before. I've earned over $1,000 a month for a few months, a year or two ago. So I know I can do it if I invested some time in it. And time to impact. Well, I guess it would take a few weeks, because the great thing with Medium is you can quickly see if your articles are working or not working. So the ROI for this is 9. Similarly, I've scored the other projects here. So Pinterest, you can earn good money from ad revenue. It's a good way of building your brand. It is a bit of work. I think I could do it based on what some other bloggers and content creators have done, but it can take a few months to see any real results. And basically, I use this criteria to score each one of these projects. And then when I've scored 5 or 10 different projects, I'll make a decision about whether or not I want to spend time on it. So in this case, I'm going to mark Medium as do, and I'm going to mark Pinterest as do. On the other hand, I'm going to mark Threads as ignore for now, because I've no idea if it'll work or if it'll help me grow my business or make money, and it's probably quite a bit of work and distracting because it's social media. Similarly, growing on X could be great, but the reach over there is just terrible right now, and I've never really done that well on Twitter, so I'm going to mark this as hold. If you're going to use a priority framework like this, what I'd recommend is putting in at least 10 or 15 different ideas that you want to work on for the next few months. Score each one of them, and then use the ROI calculation to make a decision about what you want to do, ignore, or put off for a few weeks or months. I'm using Notion to build a content library for social media. That's because when I write content for social media, I want to see what's working, what's not working, and figure out which types of content I can repurpose. If you're going to follow this approach, here's what I recommend. Use the priority framework that I showed you a few moments ago. Then pick 1 or 2 different networks that you're going to keep track of, and you're going to put all of your greatest hits into your social media content library. So I'm currently focused on YouTube and LinkedIn, but I have also created content libraries for Twitter and Medium because these are secondary networks for me. For this video, I'm going to show you what my LinkedIn content library looks like. That's because it's one of my goals to connect with more B2B writers, and the reach and engagement over there right now is fantastic. Here's my LinkedIn content library. So in the first column, I've taken note of the hook. So the hook is basically the first sentence that I use in my LinkedIn posts. That's because the first sentence is key if you want to capture the attention of people on LinkedIn. And I want to see what hooks are working and what hooks are not working. Next up, I'll include a link to the LinkedIn post in question. This helps me quickly find the post, pull the contents out from the post, and also check the analytics. I like to update my content library once a week, so I'll usually put in some stats, that is impressions or the number of people who viewed the post in question. Now I don't put every single post in because that will be really time consuming. Instead, I only capture information about the top 5 or 10 posts over a 30-day period because these are the types of posts I want to write more of and perhaps repurpose. I also like to consider what the post in question was about. As an example, this particular post did well because it had a video, which is a little bit unusual on LinkedIn. So I noted this on the multi-select section that this post included a video. Now there are some other post types and content formats that you can add to the multi-select section, and these really are dependent on the network in question. On the notes column, I write 1 or 2 words or even a sentence about why I feel the post in question did well or didn't do well. So in this case, I wrote contains video. I'll also note the publication date because this will help me see how old or new the post is before I decide to repurpose it. And I'll take note here about whether or not I repurposed the post in question. If you're going to build a content library, I recommend customizing it a little bit for the network in question. So for example, if you're going to do one for YouTube, you'll probably change this to views. And for post type, you're probably going to differentiate between long form videos and shorts. Similarly, if you're going to do this for Twitter or X, you're going to differentiate between single tweets, threads, and conversations with other people on that network. I don't write directly in Notion because I find the block editor could be a little bit painful to use. I prefer using markdown apps like IA Writer and Ulysses, which are profiled on this channel. But you can write your social media posts directly in Notion. So as an example, if I click on this post here, do you want to steal my content strategy? I can open it up in SitePeek, and then I can press enter here and actually type out the post, and I can even upload images for it as well. So this is helpful if you actually want to build a complete content library inside of your Notion database. You'll notice I don't put the entire post directly in Notion. I've seen other creators who do this, but I don't think there's any real reason. That's because your content on social media usually doesn't disappear. I can click on this link at any time and I can quickly see the post, copy it into my writing app and rework it. I also don't write directly in Notion because I find the block editor can be a little bit tricky to use. Each month, I publish dozens of articles on my website. And I also run a couple of other websites where I publish articles by freelance writers. Keeping track of all of this content can be a nightmare. So I've started to build a content library inside of Notion. I used to do this in Google Sheets, but I wanted to keep everything in one place. Here's how it works. So in the first column inside of Notion, I'll note the keywords that I'm targeting, so I don't create content or multiple pieces of content that targets the same keyword. Next up, I'll include a link to the content brief or optimization report. The tool I use the most is called ClearScope. This is an example of a ClearScope report, and this is what I send to writers when they're working on the article in question. If you're curious about how to use ClearScope or other optimization tools like Surfer, I do have some other videos on the channel which I'd recommend checking out. I'll note the author in question, so I'll give writers on my team access to the website content library for a particular site, and then I can assign them articles here. I find it's always helpful to note the headline. Again, this helps me see at a glance what content is live, so either I or a team member will put this into my Notion database. I'll usually include a link to the live URL, and sometimes I'll add an additional column here that will include a link to the draft URL if it's a project that I'm collaborating on with other team members. So that could be a Google Doc, for example. And well, let's face it, if you're writing content on your website, it's going to go out of date. So every few months, I like to update old articles on my site if they've lost traffic or search rankings. And that's why I'll note the publication date on my content library. And I also like to have an article status, so I can see quickly at a glance what's happening with each article. Here are the options I use for the status column. To do means it's an article that I want to commission, doing means it's in progress, and done means it's live. If you're unsure, just use these three. I have added an additional option for updated if the article has been updated, for scheduled, that's because some websites I run use a content calendar, draft if it's in Google Docs, and assigned if I've given it to another writer on the team. Now my actual content library has dozens and dozens of entries just like this. And when I log into Notion, I can see at a glance exactly what's happening on a particular site at any one time. It's not enough to publish content on social media or your website and hope for the best. The whole idea of keeping track of what you're publishing is to see what's working. And I've created a reporting tool inside of Notion that helps me do just that. I use this every Friday for the two social media networks that I'm focused on, that is LinkedIn and YouTube, and also for my website. Here's what my LinkedIn reporting page looks like. So I have the 52 weeks of the year inside of my Notion database. And every Friday I'll log into this and I'll put in today's date. Next up, I'll record the amount of posts that I published on a given week. So this helps me see if I'm creating enough content, too much content, or too little content. I'll record the follower count for my profile so I can see if my content is actually helping me grow my personal brand on LinkedIn. And I'll also note the impressions for individual posts. So you can see here on the week of February the 9th, impressions were down quite a bit. So perhaps the posts that I published on that given week just weren't resonating with readers, or maybe something was going on with the algorithm. And I'll also note the amount of people who viewed my LinkedIn profile. That's because I have a strong call to action on my profile to work with me if you need the help of a content strategist. That's my goal for LinkedIn. And then finally, once I've reviewed all of the stats, I'll ask myself, am I behind schedule? Ahead of schedule? Is this something I need to watch? Or am I on track? Or is there no change? And I find if I do this for the one or two networks that I'm focused on, I can quickly see what's working and not working. And if I do note that there is a spike in impressions like there was in this given week, I'll go and find the most popular post and I'll add it to the content library that I showed you a few moments ago. Now it only takes me about 20 or 30 minutes to do this for YouTube, for LinkedIn, and for my website. I don't do it for every network because then reporting will become a job in itself. And you could actually ask a virtual assistant to help you with this. But I find that this is a real time saver for creating content and getting off a treadmill. I follow a similar process for the various websites that I run. I have a website reporting database for each one of these sites. And every Friday, I'll log into my analytics tools and I'll populate it. So first up in the note column, I'll note whatever I did that week for the site in question. Or I'll also take note if something external happened. Like for example, a change to the Google search algorithm, which tanked my website traffic. I'll put in the date that I completed the report. Then I'll pull through two figures from Google Search Console. Google Search Console impressions and clicks. I keep track of impressions to see if my content is actually appearing in Google search results, and I'll keep track of clicks to see if people are actually clicking on the content in question. Then I'll head over to Google Analytics and I'll pull through metrics related to users and sessions. In other words, are people actually visiting the content on my site and engaging with it? And I'll also take note about the amount of articles that are published on the site at the time of the report. In other words, is investing time and money in new pieces of content driving up sessions and driving up clicks? Now, depending on the project in question, I may also keep track of other relevant metrics, like for example, my email list and total revenue. I'll customize this on a per site basis. That's an overview of how I use Notion to manage my online writing projects. Now, if you'd like to get this Notion database, you can of course purchase it. Let me know in the comment section below and I'll include a link. Or you could simply build something like this. It doesn't take too long, and if you build a content library and keep track of what's working, you're far more likely to hit your writing goals. If you found this video helpful, hit thumbs up, and to get more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.